Welcome back to Saturday Style. This is Karen Profita. Happy to have you with us. And hey, so with some rain, you're spending more time inside. So good time to look around and have our interior designer. We've got Rachel Cannon here with us.
Good morning.
And
I said good morning.
oh, okay, good. I was like, did she just say Emily? I don't know. I think I'm too tired.
Changed my name.
Yeah, really. I was like, wow, she changes things. Keeping me on my toes. And then we also have Amanda Gates with us. Amanda, welcome.
Good morning.
So happy to have you. And I was checking out everything you've got on Twitter, and beautiful, just incredible design. And you are from the Nashville area.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful.
Hey, y'all.
We speak that.
Yeah. I know. I'm in my own element here.
Yeah, I love it. I love lots of pink. I noticed on your tweet. So is that your signature color, or are we being seasonal? Okay, great.
Absolutely. That's my thing.
Wonderful. And Rachel, I know that you really appreciate a lot of designers and follow them. And so tell me a little bit from your perspective on Amanda's work.
Well, Amanda and I have been friends for 4 years now. We met at a design sort of conference that we attended. And what is so unique about Amanda is that she, in addition to being an interior designer, she is also a Feng Shui practitioner. And I feel like a masterclass in what Feng Shui actually is since she's been here. She got here Thursday. And, it's so much more. It doesn't even really have anything to do with your furniture, which I found out. I know a lot of people assume it's like place your sofa here for the whatever. It's so much more than that. Like, we've had deep discussions about the placement of the doors on my house and what they all represent. It's really, really interesting.
Okay, Amanda, how did you get into this and become a master of it?
It's actually a really funny story. I was on my way to med school, and I met a boy and fell in love. And so I ditched med school, and then we bought a house. It was the worst house in the best neighborhood. And we took it back to the studs. It was disgusting. I mean, if you could imagine, we thought we got the dream because we got this terrible house. But we took it back to the studs, and it felt, I could just feel it. It just didn't feel good.
Uh-huh.
And so I went to the bookstore, and I was looking at all these interior design books, and I was like, if I could just make it more pretty. If I could just make it more pretty. And this woman walked up to me and said, "Love, you don't need those books. You need that book." And it soon became my favorite F word. It was Feng Shui.
I love it.
So that's like, I opened up the book, and it was like the angels were singing and like hallelujah. And I was like, this is my jam. This is what I need to be doing. And so I dropped out of med school. Everything is okay. My mother is okay. But that is how after that, I ditched med school, applied to one of the most prestigious interior design programs, and it turned out that my space planning instructor was a Feng Shui master, and the rest is history.
Okay, I think there's probably a whole lot of misconceptions out
without
there.
a doubt.
So let's talk. First of all, I guess give us the real definition, and so we understand it, and then maybe we can attack some of these assumptions and one by one, and what the fantasy and the reality of it.
Yeah, it's funny. Rachel and I were talking about this last night, and there are definitely a lot of misconceptions. When I ask people what they think Feng Shui is, the number one answer is that I move furniture.
Mm-hmm.
The number two misconception is that it's all about clutter. And so if you have clutter, that's bad Feng Shui. And my favorite answer that I ever got was, I was doing a course, and I had everybody like shout out what they thought it was. And this guy in the back was like, "Dude, it's like Buddha sculptures and fountains like all over your house. Like really rad, like Asian decor." And I was like, that is my favorite answer ever.
Yeah, really.
So there is that level of Feng Shui. There's a lot of different schools of Feng Shui, and mine is much more, like I said, Rachel and I were talking about this last night, and my level is about creating a home, the environment that feels like euphoria. It's about really getting the vibe right in your home and looking at it at a much deeper level. And I always say that your home is a third skin. So it literally is a direct reflection of what's going on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at what's going on in your home, it's showing up in your life. It's that simple. So I don't know if that answers your question, but in a roundabout way, it's really just at the end of the day, it's about getting the vibe right in your home so that you feel happiness, peace, and true serenity. And like everything washes away. That's the whole point of it.
Well, if it does reflect your life, my life's in big trouble.
It's all fixable.
Yeah. And when you mentioned too that some people said, well, it's about not having clutter. If this allows clutter, I'm in a good place. That's just way too easy. But that's so. I'm curious though. The woman who pointed out the book to you, has this become someone in your life, or was that just her passing moment and you never saw her again?
Yeah, actually, she was. Her name was Marlene, and she was until she passed away. She actually taught metaphysics she had a PhD in metaphysics and taught at the local college.
Incredible.
I know. I mean, like, I was going into medicine, so I have a very black and white view on things. And if there's ever a skeptic, it's me. Like, I have to have proof of why things work or if they even do work. And if you tell me something, if you tell me that the sky is purple, great, but I'm going to find out for myself.
Uh-huh.
And so what I loved about Marlene is that she really taught me, like, yeah, you don't need to see everything. Like, she was actually the one that taught me about the visual spectrum. And she's like, if you look at the visual spectrum, it's about 100 miles wide, and what you can see is maybe a half mile. So there's a lot of stuff that you can't see, and you need to just, accept that. And so she was really the one that really brought to me the idea that Feng Shui is a really important part of getting your life right, and that people need to see it as a solution. And a lot of people look to external things, drugs,
Mm-hmm.
food, shopping, all these external things, but rarely do people look at their home as a possible solution, as to a way to help get their life right. And that's what Feng Shui does.
Okay, so if that's not the best setup ever, y'all may have questions during this show. I'm going to keep giving the phone number. I know everybody likes to relax on Saturday, but I think this is such a unique opportunity. So 499-1073. Again, 499-1073 if you want to ask any questions during the show. And also, before we go to break, since I've got Rachel here, it made me think, I also want to shout out to Rachel that I met at Sullivan's last week. And I always enjoy when I get to meet some of our listeners. So thanks so much. And Rachel, pick up the phone and call if you've got a question. 499-1073. We're going to take a break. Be right back with you. You're listening to Saturday Style, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Welcome back to Saturday Style. This is Karen Profita. Again, if you want to get in on our conversation, 499-1073. And I have never seen so many cameras in the studio. I don't think this is good feng shui. I'm just saying. Okay. I definitely, I'm like, man, I should have really dressed for this. Who is showbiz today? Anyway, we've got Rachel Cannon in with us, and Amanda Gates is her guest. So, Rachel, tell us more about the discussions, and let me have you lead off our discussion.
Well, gladly, because I think even as receptive as I am to anything that's sort of design related, there is a stigma attached to things like feng shui, because people think, oh, that's so out there, and that's so weird, and that's whatever. And just in talking to Amanda last night, it's really interesting because if you're a deep thinker, if you're open to the ideas, there's so much symbolism that is involved in all of this. And I think that's what's so interesting to me is that we were talking about at my house, your front door represents your voice, and sort of the voice to the world and what you're saying to the world. And so it's just really interesting to me that, like, I don't know, I think probably 8 months ago, I told her last night, I don't even think I was in a place to be receptive to this, but I've had a year. And, and so I think I'm just in a place now where I'm just really open to the idea that, because in what we do, it's really important to us for our clients to feel like home is their sanctuary, and we're doing that through sort of focusing on the comforts of home, but she goes so much deeper, and it's all, the energy of the home. And, if I think, what was it you said, the refrigerator represents your personal altar.
Let me check your mic. I'm not. let's see, is that mic hot? Because it sounds really quiet when she's speaking. Okay, so your refrigerator is...
It's your personal altar.
Your personal altar. So, of course, the first thing I do last night is go home and open the refrigerator, and I'm like, ugh. I'm like, this personal altar is bad.
Oh, my God. Okay, I'll take it. We've got somebody who is also calling in with a question. So let's go ahead. And again, if you have a question, 499-1073. Hi, Sheena. How are you?
Good morning. Well, good afternoon now.
Yes.
I've been ripping and running all day. I've lost track of time. I was listening, and I've been reading a lot about Feng Shui. And one of the things is I purchased the home prior to me starting to read about Feng Shui. And one thing that I read was something about the doors, where the front door and the back door shouldn't be aligned. Is there any way I can break that up? I think they said something about like energy moving in and then moving back out if the doors are aligned. Is there anything I could do about that?
Yeah, Amanda,
Absolutely. So thank you, Sheena, for calling in today. You're absolutely right. A front door, back door alignment can actually create a lot of chaos in a house. It can create a divide down the middle of your home. So if you're in a relationship, it can affect that. If you're trying to get pregnant, it can cause infertility, and it can make you accident prone. So, that's fantastic that you are being proactive in trying to, on a subconscious level, you probably feel these things. So that's fantastic that you're open-minded to it and that you're feeling it and that you're wanting to change it. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But yeah, one of the best things that you can do is if you can place a piece of furniture in the way to redirect the energy, that's fantastic. If it's a direct line and it's like a narrow hallway and furniture is just impossible, one of the best things that you can do is just get a faceted crystal and hang it from the ceiling, and it just helps slow things down. But the most important thing to do that a lot of books never mention about adjustments in Feng Shui is the importance of ceremony. And so what is so important when you are proactive in this way to want to fix the Feng Shui and the energy of your home is to make sure that when you put any adjustments in your home that you're really visualizing what it's doing, what you hope to bring into your home as far as peace, love, contentment, those types of things, and just really putting faith and prayer behind it. And that is what creates a sacred object, and that is what will change the energy in your home.
Well, I can definitely put furniture to block it, but ceremony, I can do that. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for calling, Sheena. We appreciate it. And again, if you've got a question you'd like to ask, because, again, this is a topic I think we've all heard of so much, and I've heard informal discussions. First time that had the opportunity to talk to an expert. So 499-1073. Again, I want to talk more about the front door. Again, that was so interesting what you were saying on that. So again, how does that work? What should we be looking for there, and what do we do with it if we've got not quite right?
So first and foremost, I want to say don't panic. I think that there's a lot of folklore and there's this idea that Feng Shui is superstition and that everything is bad. It's not all bad, and everything can be fixed. So in my world, I people always want to know, like, oh my God, I'm about to buy a new home, or I have this existing home. What should I be focusing on? So I always talk about the top 5 disruptors, and the first disruptor is always your front door. So the reason why the front door is so important is it is called the mouth of your home. So imagine if your mouth isn't functioning correctly or it's blocked, like let's say you have a lot of stuff in the way and it hits that, you want to be able to have your mouth fully functioning. So if it can't function properly, energy, and if you look at it as a representation of your own mouth, you can't get nourishment. So that's where all energy enters your home and allows every area of your life to thrive. And I can't tell you how many times I see people. I met a woman in August who won a sauna and literally put it in her entryway and sealed it in with caulking. It's like, well, it was the only place it would fit, so I put it there. And she's like, but ever since I put it there, like, my life's really been in the crapper. And I'm like, I wonder why. So your front door is so, so important. And so if you're new to Feng Shui and you're new to this idea of looking at your home in this way, I always tell people, look at it this way. Start here.
Mm-hmm.
Clean your front door. Make sure that the hinges are working. Have beautiful hardware on it. And, put beautiful plants around it. I just gave this one little tiny task to a client, and it completely changed her life. So it's worth doing.
Awesome.
An experiment.
And I'll tell you, we've got another caller. Again, if you want to call, 499-1073. Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hi, I'm so sorry. I'm actually getting some stuff done to my car. But I do have a question. I am a veteran, and I've gone through bouts of military sexual trauma and also depression and anxiety. And I'm recently in the process of purchasing a home, and I've been trying to study the Feng Shui just to see what exactly I need to do just to make it a blessed place,
Okay.
Well, Mary, thanks for calling in. That for me would be a little bit hard to answer because it's so broad.
Yes.
I would need to know more specifics about the home that you purchase and as far as the floor plan goes.
Yes.
But again, some of the most important things would be, I'll talk about the 5 disruptors, is your front door. So when you're looking at a home, pay attention to the front door, how it works, what condition it's in. Is it easy to find? That's going to be something that's important. Looking at the overall shape and what the shape looks like. And then once you start putting furniture in, you want to pay attention to what's called the command position. And command just means that you're able to always see the door. It's an evolutionary thing. So it's a comfort thing. So if you suffer from anxiety, that's going to be critical for you, is to be able to have that so that you're not on high alert.
And it's the command position?
Yeah. So if you place your bed in a bedroom, you don't want to place it to where you cannot see the door. Or if you put an office.
That wouldn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, just like what we were talking about with Sheena, a lot of this is, we sense it. On a subconscious level, we know this and we do things without realizing it. But that'll be important, especially if you suffer from anxiety. And then also if you place a office in your home, you want to make sure that you set up your desk in a way that you can always see the door. So that will help, create more peace and calm in your life and make you feel a lot more comfortable. And then getting a little bit more complex, paying attention to where the bathrooms are located. Rachel and I were actually talking about this last night with paying attention to drains and things like that, and that's important for energy because that can flush down. So I would just, as you're searching for a home, the number one thing that I always tell people is to just slow down and feel how the home feels, because it'll hit you in the gut. We as a culture tend to not pay attention to our intuition, and it is our guiding light. Pay attention, because if it feels right, it's going to be a great place to start.
Okay. I thank you so much. I mean, that's a start. And those are key things that I could definitely, use in my endeavor.
Great.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the call.
Sure. Best wishes to you, Mary. Thank you for listening. And if you've got a question, 499-1073. In fact, we're going to take a commercial break here. So, again, good time for you to dial in, 499-1073. Again, great opportunity to ask questions, have an expert on Feng Shui, how many times do you get to ask those questions? So we'll be right back. You're listening to Saturday Style, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP.
Radio for shopaholics, especially the ones that don't want to recover. Saturday Style with Karen Profita on Talk 107.3 FM.
Gets out of here. Anyway, we have got Rachel Cannon here, and we've been also talking with Amanda Gates, who is an expert on Feng Shui. And if you have a question, again, please join in our discussion. We've loved having y'all call in, 499-1073. Again, it's 499-1073. Okay, so we were going through the 5. Amanda, we had started with front door and
Yeah, so the top 5 disruptors are front door, shape of your home, bathrooms, taking command, which is just paying attention to your bed, desk, and stove. And then there's this idea that's called a knife edge. So if you're looking at the way that a corner is, like a wall, that's what creates a point. And so you have to look at everything as the way that energy is flowing through your home. And so if you have a point, let's say your bed, I actually just did a bedroom a couple of weeks ago where the 2 closets were projecting out and those knife edges were directed towards the bed. And that can affect your health. In that situation, she was having a lot of leg problems. So those are the top 5 things that I always tell people to start with, because I feel like those are easy, manageable things to take a look at and experiment with and have some fun with it and really get into this idea of what energy is and how it truly does affect your life.
Very okay. So, what was your number 2 item on the list? You had gotten
so front door, shape of your home.
Okay, shape of your home. Let's talk about shape then.
So shape gets a little bit complicated, but the ideal shape of a home is either rectangular or square. Everything's like literally in a nice complete box. And so when it gets outside of that, there are basically energy centers in your home that represent 9 major life areas, the things that really have importance to us. And so depending on the shape of your home, you may be missing an energy center in your life. And so that could be a possible area where you're struggling. And so when I have a potential client come to me and they're saying, oh God, money comes in and goes right back out, that's going to be the first thing that I look at is the shape of their home to see if they're missing that energy center.
Okay. So bring that together for me, because that's, again,
I know,
one of those concepts where I'm like, okay. Because as you're talking about it, I can, like when I see some of these round houses, it makes me uncomfortable just looking at it. I'm like, okay, I couldn't do that, and I don't know why, but it's just rings that way with me. I don't feel that peace. But okay, so money going in and out, because there's a lot of problems with that. I'm thinking maybe we all need a little different shape going here.
Well, I mean, it's much more than that. And,
right.
And I apologize if I'm overcomplicating.
Oh, no.
So if you're listening to the show today and you're confused, just call in. I've been doing this for over 20 years. And so Rachel and I were actually talking about this last night where me reining it back in and starting back at the beginning. So this is great because it helps me get a better understanding of where Amanda needs to pull it back in and make sense of it all. But so shape can be really important. And it's really my job to be able to help someone with that. It's more about you being aware and open-minded to the idea of wanting to get the energy right in your home and then working with someone like me to help you get it right. But again, one of the best things that you can do is start with your front door. It's one of the easiest things to do. I've given that assignment to many clients. I actually just gave it to a graphic designer, and she was attracting a lot of really bad clients. And I said, let's just start with your front door. And she was like, are you kidding me? This is too easy. Like, this is not going to do a darn thing. And I actually just talked to her before I came down to Baton Rouge, and she said, oh my God, like, seriously, this was so easy. Like, seriously, like, she's gotten some of the best clients. They've had all the bad ones go away. And people are calling her and saying, I think I owe you money. I think I need to pay you. And she's like, well, we weren't going to send an invoice out till Friday, but if you want to go ahead and she's like, y'all, seriously, it was that easy. So I think as a culture, we want to overcomplicate things and make it, much more than it needs to be. And we can certainly make it complicated, but, it's really about just paying attention to your house and what's showing up, because she's talking to you. And if you pay attention, she'll give you all sorts of really fantastic information.
Fascinating. Okay, if you've got a question, 499-1073. All right, Rachel, so what takeaways have you had that you're going to start incorporating?
We haven't even started. Are you kidding me? Like, we've barely scratched the surface. And I think that's the thing that's so amazing about this is that we have had this ongoing conversation about, and it's honestly, there are a lot of overlaps with interior design and Feng Shui in terms of people want to go grab a book at Barnes and Noble and then be like, I'm an interior designer,
Right.
or I'm a Feng Shui expert because I read this book. And it's interesting because even now I'm like, well, we're going to introduce you as the Feng Shui expert. And she's like, no. I really don't want the term expert. And I'm like, well, you are.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
she's like, no, because I'm still studying and I'm still learning. And I'm like, but I mean, after 20 years,
Right.
I mean, you've earned the right to call yourself an expert. But I think it's so much more than what I thought, because I think my only sort of brush against Feng Shui was that I feel like at one point I heard something about a mirror in your foyer, or having a mirror in your foyer, or not having a mirror in your foyer, or if you open the front door and a mirror reflect, like something, I don't know. And that was literally it. Like that was all. And
Right.
so it's just so interesting to me because especially we live in the Bible Belt, and a lot of what she and I were discussing yesterday, the ceremony of Feng Shui, I think that's the most important thing, is that Feng Shui is a ceremony. It's not an idea. It's something more than that. And I know lots and lots. I have lots of friends who are business owners, friends who buy new homes. And the first thing they do is go and pray over their home or their office, and they pray for God to bless it and make it a happy home, or they pray for their office and their business to be successful. And I mean, people even go so far as to like anoint the doorways with oil, and
Right.
or I know of people who get prayer cloths that are anointed with oil, and they'll take them to people who are sick. And I mean, there is something about the ritual and the symbolism of your faith and
Right.
sort of giving it something tangible, I guess. And I think that's the thing that's been the most interesting to me. So it's funny because obviously I kind of get my feathers ruffled when people are like, oh, I read this book on interior design and now I do it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, psh, yeah, right. And I can't even imagine what she must feel when people are like, she says, I also practice Feng Shui, and they're like, I read a book on that. Oh my God, it's like my passion. Like,
Yeah.
no.
It's my life thing. Yep.
No. Like, it's so much more than that. So I don't know. I think it's just, you obviously you have to have an open mind to it. And that was another conversation that we had yesterday. Just the fact that, like, it's not necessarily that she wouldn't take a client who, was doubtful, but that's not really her client. Her client is open to the process, because if you're not open to it, you don't have faith.
Right.
And if you don't have faith, then nothing is going to come to fruition. Well, that's the basic tenets of Christianity, quite frankly. I mean, if you believe and you pray and you have faith, then your prayers will be answered. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot of overlaps, and I think that kind of helped to demystify it for me, especially. I don't know. I've really found it very interesting.
I mean, it is. It's like you said, all of us have heard little bits and
Yeah.
pieces. And, I think most of us have maybe one or two rules. And we think that, okay,
Yes.
I know that. And I guess that's what it's all about, which direction your bed is facing, and, how it's, and how much do north, south, east, and west come into it? Because, again, that was something that I always associated it with.
My school of practice is actually not directional. My professor, Lin Yan, is the one that brought, I study BTB, which is, he brought that over to the States. And he always said, don't be prisoner to direction, because direction leads to weakness. And so that ties into this idea of command. And so based on directional Feng Shui, you may be told based on your birth date that you need to be facing east, but now you can't see the door. So you've now been placed in a weak spot, and that can affect your adrenals and your overall health and whatnot. So we actually, our school is actually, it has a lot of common sense to it. And it has a lot of this idea of safety, protection, peace, serenity. It's all the stuff that we want in life to really achieve euphoria. And it does exist, and it is possible if you're open to it.
Very interesting. And the whole command piece, fill that out for me more. I found that very interesting when we had the caller, and that made a lot of sense to me. But it sounds like command is a much broader concept than just being able to see the door from where you are.
Well, I can certainly overcomplicate anything. I'm an expert at that. But no, it's actually quite simple. There are 3 areas in your home that are the most important. And so it's the bed, desk, and stove. When we're looking at the 3, as far as the bed goes, the reason why you want to have command is you want to be able to see the door. It's evolution. You're sleeping. So if a tiger is going to attack you,
Right.
you want to
right.
see him coming. Obviously, we don't have tigers attacking us anymore, but it's in our DNA. And then our desk is the same thing. You know, I see this again and again where people are like, "But I want to look out the window. I want to sit at my window and I want to look at the trees and the birds." Well, that's fantastic, but your adrenals are firing off, fight or flight, and it's danger. And so it affects you, and it means that you can't see opportunity coming your way. You can experience a lack of creativity. There's all kinds of things that can go with that. And I've experienced it with a lot of clients where, you know, it's literally if you turn your desk around, you turn things around in your life. And the stove is all about your resources. So bathrooms are expenses, and your stove is resources. There's a lot of this idea of where they think that the stove is where your money comes from and finances because it feeds you. So that's a representation of wealth. And so if you are fearful of your stove, you know, you're sitting there, that too, you drive that into your food. It's energy.
Okay. All right, we've got to take a quick break. Just fascinating. I've got so many thoughts running through my head from this. I can say I'm sure these have been good discussions. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back with you. You're listening to Saturday Style, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Okay, so we have also got Amanda Gates with us, and we have been talking about Feng Shui and how that works, and you ladies brought in a floor plan, and where do you want to take this?
I'm going to take a back seat to this because this is, I look at a floor plan in a completely different way than she does, but we brought one because she does do this on her own Facebook page, which is Gates Interior Design on Facebook. So she does these live readings, and basically people can email their floor plans to her, and then she'll discuss it with her audience on Facebook. And so we thought it would be fun to do this today.
Yeah, so I guess I'll take it from here. I'll try not to talk too long, so let me know if we
Yeah.
go to
When
break.
I start giving you signals, we're getting to the end. That's all you need to know.
So since we're on the radio today, what I'll do is just kind of describe this floor plan as far as, if you can imagine, it's in the shape of an L. And so the first thing that I always look at, which we've been talking about this morning or this afternoon, is the front door. And this particular home has 2 front doors, which I've actually never seen before. But we're looking at the shape of an L. And so what I do, the first thing is take a look at a floor plan and just see where everything is laid out. And so we've discussed those top 5 disruptors. And so that's the first thing that I'll look for, is to see where those are located. And when I'm looking at a floor plan, the floor plan has what are called energy centers. And so I won't dive into the energy centers because that could be a whole entire show on its own. But what that allows me to see when I'm looking at a floor plan is just to see what is showing up in a person's life. And so in this particular floor plan, I know that the homeowner is looking for love. They want to settle down, maybe have some kids, and also would like to have more fun. And so based on what I'm seeing in this floor plan, I can see that she probably wants a little bit more clarity in her life and insight, and she's lacking that. And I can also see in her floor plan that she's lacking intimacy. And I should mention that all of this can be fixed, so there's no reason to panic when I see these things. But one of the areas in the back of her home is an empty room, and that particular room, when we're talking about those energy centers, is represented by fire. And when we're talking about Feng Shui, we use this divination tool. It's called the I Ching. And based on this philosophy, fire is all about intimacy. And so because she doesn't have any furnishings or anything in this room, her intimacy is lacking. In addition to that, I also found out that she doesn't always sleep in the master bedroom. A lot of times she will sleep in the guest room. And so from a Feng Shui standpoint, that to me represents that she is abandoning a partnership or abandoning relationships. And the reason why that is showing up is because where her master bath and master bedroom show up is the energy center known for relationships and partnership. So the fact that she is not wanting to sleep in that room or stay in that room indicates to me that she is abandoning the idea of wanting to have a relationship. And you combine that with the fact that her energy center for fire, which is intimacy, is empty. That means that that is not showing up in her life. And that area can also lead to judgment and clarity in her life. So she also is lacking that, like not knowing what to do or why she wants that in her life or why it's not showing up for her. Another thing that I see is that where her formal dining room is located in this area, this is actually, when we look at dining rooms, that's all about our friendships and the people that we have in our life and our support system. And it's the way that her floor plan is the dining room is the only space that's kind of hanging out off of her floor plan. It's basically when we're looking at this L-shaped house, the dining room it's a projection from the front of her house. It's just kind of hanging out there. And so if this represents our friends, pleasure, having a good time and fun, it's kind of hanging out there in the wind like it doesn't matter. And so that can affect the relationships that she has in her life as far as friendships, community, gathering, and having meaningful friendships in her life and people who will stay. So that would be something that I would bring up to her. And then the idea that she has two front doors, one of the front doors actually does not work. It's actually closed. So that's something that I would want to work with her on because, again, what we talked about earlier in the show is that our front door is, well, one, doors are voices. Mm-hmm. So, and if it's our mouth, that means it's essentially like our mouth is wired shut. So how can you be nourished if your mouth is wired shut? And if it's a voice, that means that your voice is not being heard. And because it's a front door, it's your voice to the world. So, and because she has two, that means that, well, we may listen to her, but we may not. Like it's this juxtaposition. So based on what I'm seeing in this floor plan, those are some areas that I would start with her and start working on those areas. You know, my partner always says small piles, small piles, one thing at a time. So those are some things that I would start with her to start shifting the energy in her home, to start shifting it in a new direction, to start making those life changes so that she starts feeling euphoric in her environment.
Very interesting.
Isn't that cool?
That is so amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's because I'm going.
So, Amanda, how often when you read plans do you know ahead of time? Like you said, for example, on this one, she sometimes sleeps in the master bedroom, sometimes she sleeps in the guest bedroom. Would you have picked up on all of that if you hadn't known that about her, or?
No, that's a specific detail that I would need to know from the homeowner. However, a lot of times I can see a lot of things in a floor plan. Like there might be, I just read a floor plan a couple weeks ago where the gal was also struggling with relationships. And I could see that her energy center for partnerships was missing, and that she also had knowledge in her energy. One of her energy centers was knowledge that she was missing. And so that I knew that she wasn't holding on to a partnership, couldn't hold on to a partnership, possibly was dealing with a divorce, but didn't, have the energy or the clarity to know what to do about it. And she was like, oh my God, nailed it. Like, so things like that I can see. But it's the specifics where what I can do is sit down with a homeowner and say, okay, so here's what I'm seeing. What are some things that are showing up? And I try not to get too many details because I don't want them to be like, well, you're saying that because I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to do as much as I can ahead of time so that they can see this is real. This is really what's showing up. This is what I'm seeing. And then as the story starts to unfold, then we can really start to pinpoint and narrow in, okay, here's our game plan. And then at that point, the more information you give me, the more I can help you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But people don't always want to tell me everything either. So sometimes I've got to be a detective and go in there.
Yeah, very interesting. And let's be sure people know how to find your site, and so they can also, if they want to get a little more information on what you're doing.
Yeah, so Rachel mentioned earlier my Facebook page. That's a great place to start. And then you can also go to gatesinteriordesign.com. And I am all over the internet. Like, I am not hard to find. Google Amanda Gates. I will pop up.
And they just launched a new podcast, too.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're very welcome.
Man, she is my advocate.
I'm looking out.
We've actually had a podcast since 2011, but we just launched on Friday a new one.
Well, we've only got a few minutes left, but I am wondering. So, I mean, are there house floor plans then that no matter who lives in it, what's going on with their life, it's going to be flawed until some changes happen to it, or if they don't properly, I guess, place things within it?
Here's the thing. There is no such thing as a perfect floor plan. Even with my knowledge, I mean, and as an interior designer, I can't go into an architect and build a perfect home. It does not exist. So the best thing is to be proactive and work with someone like me to get the energy right. And the thing is that what you don't realize is you attract the details. Mm-hmm. So, I did a floor plan where I could see that the woman had been molested. And she's like, how the heck did you know that? It's in your floor plan. There's a lot that shows up in your floor plan. And until you get that energy cleared, you're going to continue to attract it.
All right. Very interesting, Rachel. You always bring great guests with you.
Thanks.
And Rachel, we've just got a minute left, but let's tell people how to find you too.
RachelCannonLimited.com.
Have a great and safe weekend. We'll talk to you next week. You've been listening to Saturday Style, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP.